Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today at your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this radio, audio, no pictures live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about something that I've noticed just recently, and I think it's very concerning, and I'm surprised it hasn't been picked up on, is the what is quite obviously the infiltration of criminology research groups, whether they be quangos or public service departments or even NGOs that are receiving government grants, or universities that are receiving government grants and handouts. They all arrive with a very, very orchestrated, very stage-managed message that in the Western world, what's the biggest problem we've got? Well, it's straight white males, Christians, because they're all fucking Nazis, Hitler. And this, of course, is quite absurd. Now, they come at it from all different directions to make sure that no matter where you turn, no matter what area of so-called social discord there is, that it's always and only straight white males that are the problem. And it just coincidentally happens to be that the globalists believe that in implementing the ideological government of the globalist project, that it'll be straight white males that will not only be the biggest losers, but will be the ones who are least interested in and least supportive of that sort of ideological government and the sort of people that will ask the most questions. So they have to be neutralized. And one of the best ways to do that, as we've seen with January 6, 2020 in the United States, is if you complain about a blatantly rigged election, then you're an insurrectionist and they'll hunt you down and put you in fucking prison. So that's the idea, that you've committed a criminality by noticing the rigging of the election. You've committed a criminality so huge, so terrible and so vast that every resource of the federal government has to be employed in hunting you down and throwing you in prison without even the writ of habeas corpus applying. So now this is just a propaganda avalanche, and I just want to look at it more closely. So now I noticed that there was a bunch of supposed research coming out, spewed hysterically by the fucking media, as you can imagine, the globalist control media, no less, that really there's a wave of violence against women committed by straight white males. Wouldn't you believe it? Middle-class straight white males, no less. The reality that less than, if you're looking at middle-class straight white males, less than 5% of the so-called domestic violence issue is committed by middle-class straight white males, and even that is connected with very unhappy and very hotly contested divorces and things like that. So that's nonsense. And we look at supposedly it's high school boys committing violence and sexual this against girls. Again, no evidence to really support that. Heavily cherry picked and very ideological type methodologies are used. And I could go on, but it's in the workplace. Women are being sexually harassed and raped in the workplace. Again, middle-class straight white males. And so wherever you go, there's this thing that there's this massive amount of social dysfunction along gender and race lines, all committed by straight white males. Now, a bigger load of garbage and nonsense you couldn't find, but that doesn't matter. Now, I guess the more interesting sort of aspect, certainly from my point of view, is there was a time when these institutes of criminology, or whatever name they had, would have been quite scrupulous in their impartiality, and they would pursue, the evidence and so they would produce statistics that were meaningful, information that was useful. In terms of formulating, criminal policy and legislation, things like that. And if the governments of the day, and they certainly did this, the day wanted to get propaganda, they would go outside of the public service to institutions, NGOs, and various groups that would produce any verdict you want, as long as you paid them enough money. And this was I remember some years ago there was a supposed report that domestic violence cost the economy $100 billion every year. What a nice round number, 100 billion. Whoa. But when you and I managed to get this is some years ago, managed to get a copy of the thing, and it was all a load of ideological, nonsense, absolute bullshit and nonsense and outright lies. But that's what the government wanted. The government wanted to make an announcement. Look at what we're doing about domestic violence. We are really getting tough on domestic violence. But they had to have some sort of report they could point to, say, look, the experts said, we're only responding to what the experts said, which is the classic ideological sort of government by ideology rather than by evidence. Now, but I noticed this uptick coming all at roughly the same time in recently, and the hitherto impartial government departments or expert groups on looking at criminology, and so they were all coming out with what was very clearly propaganda. The wording that was used, and you don't get a very sober academic treatise on criminology or any aspect of it that begins with the horrific abuse, the incredible, evil, horrific, the horrific of the horrific. It's more horrific than horrific. You don't get that sort of delivery from sober, impartial academics. Far from it. It's very dry and if anything, understated in the sort of language it uses. But this is absolutely thick with hysterical propaganda and hyperbole, and so anyway, this is something that I noticed. So I started looking at, well, has the personnel changed? Because some of these places that were coming out with this nonsense weren't subject to or influenced by financial inducements. It's not like a private research firm where you say, we'll give you $1 gazillion, but if, you have to say the moon is blue. I go, moon is blue, done. If the money's right, anything's possible. So it's not a situation like that. So I was looking at these government departments or fully government funded departments, and found that there's been a lot of personnel changes. So, and what is very concerning is the government has gone around the world looking for rabid activists, whether they be in Britain or Canada, the United States, or wherever, rabid activists wherever they can find them, hiring them out of other politicized and corrupted government departments overseas, or hiring them from NGOs, or hiring from wherever they can find them. There, it has to be an academic. The Dr. Smith or Jones says this or that. So you have to have that sort of cachet about it. But so they hired all these activists and started sticking them in as CEOs of all these groups, and then so you've got the director of so and so, and that has to be a woman, of course. Now, the deputy director has to be a gay guy, and then and so on. So you have to stack it. Then it has to be the trans and the black lesbian and so on. So you stack it with the very politically correct people, all of whom are very politicized, ideological hack activist goons, people who would struggle to even get a job in the real world, let alone. But in the activist sort of the increasingly large activist sector that's all over the Western world, there are jobs, and a lot of them for these people. Anyway, so now at the same time, the pieces were being moved into place. So the NGOs that are known for producing, social research, the lesbian gender studies academics that are known for pumping out supposed research that all straight white men are Hitler and everything. All of these groups were sort of lined up, and they all started pumping out. I mean, you could have written, whatever one said, the others all said it the same. But the politicians and the others, using this so they can cross-reference each other. So, we're just confirming what the lesbian down the road said, that all straight white men are Hitler. Yes, that's our research says that, but we're only quoting them. We're only referencing what they said. And they said all straight men are Hitler. So really, we're just confirming what they said. It's not us. It's them. They said it, and that sort of tactic that these people randomly use. But there's no question that it's centrally. Now, whether the globalists have gone to the now no longer sovereign Western government and said, look, this is what you're going to do. This is how you'll set it up. We need legitimacy here. And we need to say all these they're fully independent researchers, academics, and they say that all straight white men are Hitler. The far right neo-Nazis are everywhere, under every bed, in every closet, around every corner. So we need that sort of research because we're going to clamp down on straight white males in some way. And we need to be able to say, well, look, the research said so. It wasn't us. We're only doing what the experts said. And so I noticed this coordination. So it's fairly clear that either, the sober academics that would have done this research or hitherto had done this sort of, again, into criminology, that they wouldn't have produced that all straight white men are Nazis, because they're not. It's an absurd fantasy in the first place. But from an ideological perspective, you're trying to impose ideological government without the consent of the people. Then you have to demonize and destroy those who would disagree with you or might oppose it or question it. And it's straight white males, of course. So that's what they're going after, and to demonize them and say, well, they're all Hitler. Research says so. So clearly, my take is that the globalist cabal went to these no longer sovereign Western governments and said, look, this is what we want you to do. These are the pieces we want you to put in place, and then you will do this and that. So I think they were given marching orders and marching instructions on how to set it up and what to do. The only, another quite little bit softer alternative is we want you to ramp up and gin up the anti-white male sort of rhetoric here. Now, here are some people that are on our list of recommended propagandists who will say anything that we tell them to, and we want you to hire these people and put them into these roles. That's equally plausible and possible. But there's no doubt it's going on, and we could debate the scale of it. I can grab any one of these reports and within a few paragraphs could tear them all to pieces. Yet the media, breathlessly and with much gushing and frothing, report these things. And well, it's a pandemic of straight white male Christians oppressing everybody. Hitler, and this is the sort of stuff that's going on. And I don't think I can't see anyone pushing back on this. It's a travesty. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.